the Trump administration has tried to tell the Israelis, look, this is ultimately going to ensure that the Iranians never have a path to a nuclear weapon. And again, what are we looking at here when we step back? We're looking at an agreement that is going to, on Friday, immediately open the Strait of Hormuz. And it's going to also enter into a 60-day detailed negotiating period to address these nuclear issues with the Iranian regime. They are committing to not having a nuclear weapon, but ultimately the International Atomic Energy Agency and others are going to be part of the interworking here in Iran on the ground to ensure that this highly enriched material is removed. And when I spoke with the president yesterday, he talked about how difficult it's going to be to get what he refers to as the nuclear dust that is currently buried deep underground. He says the Iranians told the United States only the U.S. and China actually have the equipment and ability to do so. But when we look at this agreement, the Iranians didn't get what they wanted. They wanted U.S. forces to leave the Middle East completely and abandon all bases in the region. And that's not going to happen as part of this deal. We know that U.S. forces are going to remain at the 5th Fleet location in Bahrain for the U.S. Navy, also the Al Udeid base outside of the Qatari capital of Doha. There are thousands of U.S. forces there. And so even if there is an eventual drawdown of the U.S. military in the Middle East, there will still be thousands of forces here prepared if the president has to use military action in the future. But remember, as part of this deal, there is this economic leverage on the Iranian regime. They're not going to get the sanctions relief that they so desperately want and need if the United States doesn't get everything they want out of these detailed negotiations. And so they're going to have to keep the Strait of Hormuz open and move forward with the commitments that they made at the negotiating table as it relates to their nuclear program.
Welcome to the channel, guys. So I've got an update here with a bunch of information on why this deal happened, because I know everyone is a little hesitant and it just didn't make a lot of sense. But I think by the end of the video here, it will make sense. So stick with me because I got some good info for you. Appreciate if you'd like, share, and subscribe. It's a huge boost to the channel. All right, let's look at this first. So the first vessel to transit the Strait of Hormuz since the announcement of the peace deal between the U.S. and the Iran is flagged, and it's went through as of 10 hours ago. And if I look here, the second vessel has transported as well. A number of NATO buoys have appeared in the Strait of Hormuz. They are showing as Iranian ownership, extreme amount of spoofing in the region, but the second ship has went through officially that we know of. We're going to look at this here. This is Trump on Iran. As far as the regime change, I never cared about regime change. This is the third group we've dealt with, and this is the most rational group yet. So we've seen turnover like crazy, okay? A lot of the hardliners, the entrenched IRGC are gone, but essentially right now, it looks to me like the IRGC are calling the shots. They've been hammered extremely hard. And you might ask, like, but why are we making this deal now? Well, the midterms aren't too far away. And if the stock market or gas prices, skyrocket or fall tremendously, that could potentially cost the Republicans, Trump, the midterms. So let's first look at the 10-year Treasury yield. It's trading at 4.447 as of 10:09 today. This reflects a sharp decline, roughly 4 basis points from Friday's closing mark at 4.485. The market is reacting heavily to the formalization of the preliminary U.S. Iran peace deal over the weekend. And here's the deal. A 10-year U.S. Treasury yield crossing above 5%, which it came really close to a couple times since this started, is a critical psychological and economic tipping point. Well, disastrous can mean different things to different sectors. A sustained move above 5% triggers severe financial pressure points across the entire global economy. According to the data from the CBO, Congressional Budget Office, higher yields force net interest payments to quickly outpace major federal spending programs. Higher interest payments widen the federal deficit. To fund this wider deficit, the U.S. must issue even more debt, continuously compounding the problem. So the 30-year fixed mortgage rates track the 10-year Treasury yield. If the 10-year moves past 5%, mortgage rates typically surge toward 8 to 8.5%. Current homeowners who bought during the pandemic era have 3 to 4%. So you're creating a complete freeze in the housing supply. Millions of first-time homebuyers are completely priced out of the market by suffocating monthly payments. Businesses rely on the bond market to fund operations, payroll, and expansion. Higher yields force companies to pay significantly more to borrow money. Banks hold trillions of dollars in older U.S. Treasuries bought at lower yields. As the yields spike, the market value of those older bonds plummets, triggering severe unrealized balance sheet losses and potential collapse. Wall Street values stock prices based on discounted future cash flows. When the risk-free rate, Treasury yield, rises, corporate valuation models drop, forcing stocks down. 10-year Treasury note, 4.48. That's, as I read in the beginning, it's significantly better than it was on Friday at close of business. Gas is also an issue. Okay, the barrels of crude oil, there just wasn't enough without the Strait of Hormuz. And so this could have led to a real crisis. Now, we can't supply, when you look at the millions of barrels, we come up about 8 million barrels short for the world, which is what the Strait of Hormuz was supplying. So this is making a lot more sense to me. And for everyone who thinks that Trump is some kind of a stooge of Israel, Israel is not happy today. They tried to blow this deal hours before it was signed yesterday by bombing Hezbollah. Okay? And Trump got on the phone and he just told them to stop, and they did. So that narrative that Israel is running everything, look, they have a lot of money, they have a lot of influence through AIPAC and the money that they give in the United States, but they are not running Donald Trump. He did what was best for the United States of America, which is what we voted for him for. I thought this was some important information. It gives you some context of why we made the deal. And remember, if Iran doesn't live up to the agreement, we can always go back to bombing them. I don't want that. It's just a fact. Have a wonderful day, guys. I'd appreciate if you'd share the video out. That'd be awesome. God bless.